Hi there, welcome to Everything Dog Training with me, John McGuigan, Glasgow dog trainer and behaviour consultant. We're going to look at red flags today. So a question I asked on Facebook was, what are red flags for dog training if you're employing a dog trainer? So it's a minefield out there, and I truly understand it as trying to make head nor tail of it. If you are a novice dog owner or somebody new into the field of dog training, so you've got a pet dog and you're having some behaviour problems, and you Google dog trainer in your local area, and a million, dozens and dozens of dog trainers come up, and how to siphon your way through the minefield that it is. So with everybody or lots of people telling you different things, and I'm going to try and clear some of that up today. My ethics, just for transparency, if you're a first time listener, is I don't use aversive training methods. So I don't use prong collars, shock collars, choke chains, slip leads, which is basically a noose by another name, sometimes called a garrote collar, which actually comes from the French word garrotte, which means to garrote somebody, as in to choke somebody with a rope. And I don't use anything like that. Rattle cans, spray bottles, and I don't even say no to dogs. So if the dog is doing something that I don't like, then I look at why the dog is doing that, what training needs that they have, and then I fill those needs. So I don't rewind. And if you're new to me and you're wondering how you can get away with not saying no to your dog, is you just interrupt the behaviour, just move them away, and then think about how to train that void. Okay, and it can be done. It can be done. Lots of the modern training, so progressive or non-aversive training, has been learnt from working with zoo animals. And if you're working with a bear, trying to do some husbandry training, so you're asking the bear to put his, push his backside up against the fence or the bars of the enclosure in order to get an injection, and you tell him no, one, he probably wouldn't understand it. Two, if he did understand it, he's going to lose his temper with you, and he's likely to walk away and not engage in the training process again. So that's one of the reasons we learnt lots from exotics and working with exotics. So if you're new to us, welcome. Hopefully you get lots from this podcast, and listen to our back catalogue. We do a number of different, we look at a number of different issues, and that's with input from yourself. So if you follow me on Facebook and you're answering the questions that I use for podcasts, then thank you. And if you don't follow me on Facebook, then please do. I've got loads of content there. So ways that I can help you can do online consultations, which are really successful. You can travel to see me, or you can work in the Glasgow area with me. Or I've got a number of online courses, and I've got a 10% podcast code, so it's POD10, and it's for a number of our online training courses, which you work away on your own. Your own pace. So loose lead walking, recall, getting your dog to focus on you. We've got a couple of adolescent dog training courses, a regression course, and human movement for dog training. So they're all available, and they're all in the show notes. And if you follow us, then please do subscribe. And if you follow us on YouTube, then subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified. It all helps us grow this podcast so that we can get this information out to as many people as we possibly can. Alright, so that's all that done. Okay, let's look at green flags. Red flags. I covered green flags in our last session. So the question that I asked is, a dog trainer or dog training professionals, if you're engaging with them, what warning signs should people look for when they're selecting a dog trainer, behaviour consultant, groomer, dog walker, or dog boarder, or people in that profession? Okay, so I'm going to concentrate mainly on dog training today because that's my expertise. Okay, and let's have a look at, we've got a couple of people. Now, my view on it is there's a number of things. I ask specifically, and I generally, even if I'm speaking to people, if they phone me up and they're shopping around, so they might be trying to get the best price. Obviously the cheapest isn't always the best, and they might do one session or two sessions with somebody that is relatively inexpensive. but they're inexpensive because they're inexperienced, and they could do one session with us a little bit more expensive and get significantly more value. So we know that, okay. But one of the questions I'll say to people when they phone up, I say to them, ask specifically what training tools and methods that they use, and then further follow-up question to that is ask them specifically, do you use a prong collar, shock collar, slip lead, choke chain, rattle can, anything like that? And if the answer isn't an immediate yes, or there's some prevarication there, then go somewhere else. So in 2024, it's willful ignorance and or a lack of ethics at this point. Our ethical standards for people that want to use these tools are just, they're subpar. And I know that might offend people, and yeah, hey ho. All right. So I would ask specifically what training methods that they use. Okay. Now, a couple of people have come on, and well, we've got a decent amount of comments. We get a few dozen comments on this one, and someone's commented on it. They saw this on a trainer's page, and it says, from this trainer's page, we predominantly use positive reinforcement when building behaviours for obedience and desired behaviours. Once those foundations are built, we utilise training tools, i.e. correction, chain, slip lead or an electric collar, that's a shock collar, to hold the dog accountable and to maintain reliability under a range of distractions. Right. So that's on a person's website, and I always think the big one for me in that whole sentence there is to hold the dog accountable. We can't hold the dog accountable because they're accountable to who? The law, society, right? It's your dog. It's a human's dog. The dog's living in a human world, so how can that dog possibly be held accountable for any of their actions? They can't, because they're a dog. So that whole thing, from that one thing alone, hold the dog accountable, regardless of the fact that they're admitting to use and correction chains, a choke chain is what that is, a slip collar, which is a noose, and an e-collar, which is a shock collar. So we've got three euphemisms there. Regardless of that holding the dog accountable is nonsense. Okay. Yeah, so that's a red flag. Terminology like alpha, pack, make, as in to make the dog do anything, dominance, and red zone dogs. Okay, those are all nonsense words. Okay, so we've got people saying that the dog's part of a pack and you need to be pack leader. Yep, you need to be the alpha. It's a lot of rubbish. Make the dog do anything, which implies that it's not a cooperative approach, and you're going to force the dog to do something if they don't do what you're asking them to do. And this notion of dominance. Yeah, dogs are not dominant, and they're certainly not trying to be dominant over us. Yep. Red zone dogs is a term that Cesar Millan came up with, and it just took hold because we kind of like it. I'm going to tell you a story in a second to illustrate that, but we like this notion of the dog's a red zone dog. One of these things with the things with red zone dogs is that's not a nonsense term. Okay, so it's a nonsense term. Think for a second if you've ever lost your temper. Have you ever watched a toddler losing their temper? And I mean properly having a tantrum, like a full-blown tantrum. Which lasts for 10, 15, 20 minutes, okay? And that happens, because the child is under 3 years old, can't emotionally regulate, and cannot physically, neurologically, psychologically, is incapable of emotional regulation, and are trying to make sense of the world that they're operating in, that they're living in, and then they have this massive tantrum. So when we get these things, now, that's then determined, their tantrum is determined by the environment that they're operating in, that they're acting in, they're living in. And dogs are similar. So we can have a dog that has just been pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, never get its needs met, doesn't understand how to get their needs met, and then lose their temper. And we get this whole thing that they're red zone dogs, that they're so beyond the pale, that they're possessed by Lucifer himself, and we have to act appropriately for this completely dangerous animal. Now, if you've not listened to me, and I make reference to my police career. I was a police officer in Glasgow for a long time. My police career lasted over 20 years, and I make reference to that to illustrate several things. So I left the police nearly 10 years ago, and a few years ago, I think this was pre-pandemic, I think it was anyway, I'd been asked to do an assessment for a dog for a court case, and the dog was at the kind of Humane Society, okay, the SPCA, and I'd been asked to go in and have a look at this dog for court to do a report on it. So a big bull mastiff type dog, and an incident had happened the previous week. Okay, so this was the following Monday, so it was about 10 days after this incident had happened, and there had been a massive stushy Barney, okay, a big stushy, a big fracas at a household in a residential area, and it had been carnage by all accounts. Okay, so the male householder had been violent, drunk and aggressive, and had fought with the police, and then this massive dog had got into the fray and had a pop at a couple of the cops, and they then had to go in with the snitcher poles, which is a pole with the kind of plastic noose round the end, and it had taken them 3 cops to try and get this dog out of the flat and then get it into kennels or out of the house. Now, I'm older in years now. I remember what it was like to be a young man in the police, and that now that's a good story to tell, regardless of whether the ethics of it and the welfare of the animal and the human suspect. That's an interesting story for people to hear, and we young men, women as well, that are in the police, and I'm not bashing them. I still have great fondness for my previous colleagues and for that job. It pays into the fact that, or this notion that I can wrangle the wild animal, including the human suspect. Okay, so I'm that capable that I can do it. Okay, so bringing the dog in, it took 3 of us to get this dog under control. Okay, and the dog was going mental, and it would have killed us if we hadn't, blah blah blah. Right. So all of that story, which you'll have heard, that bravado nonsense. Okay. So I'd gone round and was looking at the dog and walked into the kennel block, stood at the gate, and the dog sat there and wagged his tail at me. I threw a few treats over the kennel. The dog approached the kennel, said hi to him, took some treats through the fence, threw the dog over the kennel, and then one of the staff brought the dog into the run, and the dog was absolutely fine with me, super friendly and relaxed. What's the difference there? Okay, so this is not a red zone dog. We could have described that dog as a red zone dog the previous weekend when it had been horrible. Okay, the whole thing had been horrible for that dog. Okay, for that dog, absolutely horrible. These men that the dog doesn't know come in, they're in uniform, they've arrested the owner, the caregiver, or the guardian, if you like, okay, who is drunk and violent himself, and we take the dog out of that situation, and lo and behold, we get different behaviour, okay, and there's nothing that I saw with this dog that indicated the dog was a red zone dog, okay, so you get trainers, mainly male trainers, okay, but you get a lot of female trainers that do this as well, and they buy into the notion that they're dealing with red zone dogs, okay, because it makes them look big, okay. I always think that these people didn't get enough hugs as children. Yeah, okay. Next one, moving on. Camouflage trousers. Yes and no. Is it a red flag? Okay, camouflage trousers. So again, that pays into the previous notion of this. I'm the big man, I'm the soldier, I'm the SWAT commander, the special operations operative, wearing camouflage trousers and black gear as well, okay, so it's like the security guy, that's got his harness on his dog that says security and all this, and he doesn't do any security work. So yes, it's certainly an indicator, okay, now remember that red flags are just warning signals, okay. They might not be the case. That might not be, just because something warns you doesn't mean it's a warning that this might happen. It can be a warning that this will happen, but it's a warning that these things might happen. And camouflage trousers is one of those, or any camouflage, or all the black gear. Okay. Now, I wear a black vest at work and I wear black waterproof trousers. but I wear them because those were the ones that were available when I bought them, and I didn't really like any other colours. So that's the first thing. I bought a big from Decathlon, so I don't know if they've got Decathlon in the US and Canada or Australia, but certainly a European company, and it's like a big sports and outdoor warehouse, and they sell lots of their stuff. Not sponsored by Decathlon, but their kit's exactly the same as lots of the other companies with the big logo on it, and you spend an extra £200 or £300 for a waterproof jacket. I bought this big hunting jacket from the Decathlon, and it was fully waterproof and properly insulated. It was a big insulated, waterproof, camouflage hunting jacket, and I bought it because I liked the look of it. Okay, so yep, I'm wearing that, but just liked it. Okay, and certainly wasn't indicative of my attitude towards dogs. Okay, so yes and no for the camouflage one, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, okay, board and train. Okay, so yes and no. So with board and train, generally I would say to shy away. So a board and train is when you send your dog away for training. Okay, I've talked about it a little bit on this before, about this notion of can your dog do those behaviours for anybody, which is what the board and train is. So the trainer trains the dog and takes the dog out hopefully several times a day and trains the dog. Okay, and then there's a handover when the owner comes back or the guardian comes back, and the person shows the dog, the owner, what to do with the dog and what they've done. Okay, now I remember years ago I had my Neapolitan Mastiff. If I asked my dog to sit, she would sit. I remember one day meeting my mum's friend in the street, and Moira wasn't a real doggy person, and she several times asked Kitty to sit, and Kitty looked at her as if she was insane. Right? She just looked at her saying, "Well, why would I ever sit for you? I've got no relationship with you." Okay, and that's the key there. Relationship. Okay, do you have a relationship with your dog? So board and train, yes, I would generally shy away from it. I don't offer it, and I tell people that it's not a model that I like. However, there are occasionally individuals and companies that do. So Colleen, who was on one of the previous episodes, so if you look back through them, so there was the ones from kind of 4 years ago, 2020, Colleen came on, Colleen Harrison Hild, and Colleen does board and train, but she only does like 2 or 3 at a time, and everything's positive. They think the dogs stay with her for a month. They live in her house. She trains the dogs how to focus, walk on a loose lead, come back when called, socialise with other dogs. She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome. And then I've got another friend who is in just outside Toronto, and they do the same. Okay, Puppy Power, they're just outside Toronto, and they're excellent. So they take dogs and do board and train. So there are some places that do it, but again, go back and ask specifically, what training methods do you use, what training tools do you use, can I see some video of you working with previous dogs? Okay, alright, okay. Right. This is a trainer who believes that getting the dog to walk next to them like a North Korean soldier is progress. Okay, yep, I would say that's unnecessary, and why would you need to do that? Okay, but it kind of looks impressive, but it's certainly not. It's not impressive as far as I'm concerned, regardless of what training methods that you use. Trainers whose only qualification is owning dogs their whole life. And the person said they've lived in a house their whole life, but they're not an architect. And again, that's a yes or no. Okay, if they've trained dogs their whole life, have studied dog training, and have good ethics, had loads of experience, then the time on the job, if you like, and if their own dogs are happy, if you can watch them train and it's done with positive reinforcement, then I would say that's not necessarily a red flag. But again, it's indicative of, we just need to ask some more questions. Okay. Right, another one we've got, The dog needs to know who's the boss. Okay, that goes back into the whole alpha stuff, which is, yeah, it's just outdated. Yeah, the dog doesn't need to know who's boss. The dog is not trying to be the boss of your household. Next one, somebody suggested quick fixes. It's an instant red flag for me, as this always involves some aversive training methods or tools. Quick fixes is an interesting one, okay, because if we do it properly, with 90%, and I mean 90% plus of the dogs that I work with, I make significant progress within the first hour with them. I mean, like day and night, the people are, sometimes they kind of look agog at me that we've made so much progress in such a short period of time, and that's done through slowing down, a high rate of reinforcement, and proper lead handling and management of the environment. Okay, so those 4 or 5 things that I've just mentioned there. So we've got slowing down, good lead handling and movement, high rate of reinforcement, which is relevant to the dog, and environmental management. Yeah, so those 4 things, they work. We can make leaps and bounds of progress using those 4 things, and I do it regularly in the first hour using just those things. Now, is that a quick fix? Maybe if the person does exactly what we say for the next lessons and they do exactly the same thing, okay, but they're learning how to do that, and learning takes time. So if I was to take the dog on board with my skill set, I adopt that dog and just take the dog on board, we would see massive changes within that hour, huge changes within the next 2 or 3 days, and by the first week or the first 2 weeks we would see huge reductions, okay, huge reductions in problem behaviours, an increase in better behaviours, but the person's learning how to do it as well. If the trainer is turning around and saying that they can fix the stuff within an hour, okay, or they can sort it immediately, again, I would say that is a red flag. And again, asking further questions. You offer a quick fix. How do you do that? And if they prevaricate again, oh well, we just communicate with the dog in a way that the dog understands better. What training methods do you use, pal? Okay, you're going to put a prong collar on my dog, you're going to use a slip lead on my dog. Yep, okay. Okay, this was interesting as well. I saw this, that somebody having to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Right. Yeah, just thought that was interesting. Yep. Why can't I disclose your training methods? Why is there no transparency? Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Why is there no transparency in this? So I show my training. I show short clips of it, but I show the training, and I put videos up showing mistakes as well. I don't do that often, but I certainly put it up, showing the mistakes that we make, and it's to show that it's not perfect. Things get in the way. Okay. All right. Next one, before another red flag, before and after videos with no mention of the causes of the behaviour being worked on. Yeah, okay, that's really nice. Okay, so say your dog is frightened of other dogs. Okay, your dog's frightened of other dogs, and your dog lunging and barks at people and dogs. Okay, so your dog's frightened of other dogs and they lunge and bark at them, alright? And we see the dog lunging and barking at the start, okay, and then walking quietly past on the way at the end of the session. We see that as a before and after video. If they're not explaining that, why they're doing what they're doing, what they've done and how they've done it, and you're just seeing this before and after of a dog that looks wild, and then a dog that is just not wild after that, okay, then I would say that that's probably a red flag. Okay, the person's also said the staff, especially if the after videos shows a change of equipment that's not mentioned. So I see this a lot. If people send me videos and you see the dog pulling in the lead, and then they're not pulling the lead, but if you pause at the right part, you can see that the dog's wearing a slip lead, and it's cinched high in underneath the dog's ears and is really short. and that dog is now walking. The dog is not pulling. The dog has not yet not learned to walk on a loose lead. The dog has just been punished for pulling. Okay, so yeah, that's I would say that's good observations. Okay. Okay, this next one, this is an interesting one. I'm quoting here. It's difficult these days because many only show the positive stuff in their feeds, so on their social media, and it's only when you get sucked in a bit deeper that corrections suddenly pop up. But when trainers start comparing or raising pups or dogs to raising children, and they need to stop unwanted behaviour in either of them, it's usually a red flag for me. I often feel like commenting that if they corrected their children like they corrected their dogs, that they'd be up on charges for child abuse. So there's lots of nice observations there. So I don't think that the comparison of raising dogs and puppies to raising children is a bad one. Okay, we teach our children to act appropriately. That should be done positively with boundaries put in place, but also with an understanding of neurological development. Okay, so we can't give a child into trouble, as I previously mentioned, for throwing a tantrum. Okay, if they're 4 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, they're just doing it because they're 3 years old. They're then learning how to emotionally regulate, and as they learn how to do that because they're learning it through brain development, because they haven't got a developed brain capable of doing it yet, then. And I don't think that the human brain properly develops into an adult brain until early to mid-20s, I think it is the last time I read something about it. Alright. So that's it's valid, okay, but we've also got 2 novice learners in the environment making their way through the environment. So teenage dogs show lots of the same behaviours as teenage humans, okay, which is exploring and being interested in sex. Okay, so those are normal teenage behaviours. Okay, and that's just about finding your way in the world and evolution. Okay, difference is that dogs reach adolescence after 4 or 5 months, whereas humans reach adolescence after 12, 13, 14 years on the planet. Okay. But yes, I think from what this person has said, that if they corrected their child the same way as they correct their dogs, an electric collar, strangling them, shouting at them, pulling them harshly on the lead, then absolutely that be up for an assault charge for child protection. It's late, guys. Apologies. A long weekend. Alright, so apologies, I'm starting over my words a little bit. Okay, I'll do another couple. Lack of qualifications or memberships of professional bodies. I'm not so sure about this. You'd asked me 5 or 10 years ago, I would probably said yes. Most professional bodies now, or many of them, are for-profit companies. Okay, and they're not regulated by anybody other than themselves or by some sort of affiliate body. Okay, so there's a local aversive trainer, and I'm not calling him balanced trainer because he puts a prong collar or shock collar on every single dog that he works with, and he set up this association. Okay, and he set it up, stuck a logo on it, and got people to make membership. The guy had learnt most of his stuff from Cesar Millan, so he'd watched The Dog Whisperer and read a couple of Cesar Millan's books, and now is apparently now qualified to look at other people and qualify them as professional dog trainers. If you're going towards, if some of the professional bodies or education providers are then looking at Open College Network, which is I don't know if it's a government standard, but it's certainly getting there. Okay, but the other thing you've got to remember with these companies is that, and they are companies, membership with these companies is a money-making exercise. Okay, it's not free. So you pay your £300, £400 a year, whatever it is, £200 a year, and And the reason that is because the people who are running the companies are looking to make money, which is fine. Okay, we're allowed to earn money, but memberships of professional bodies is not like the Law Society, okay, or the Royal College of Nurses, or the British Medical Association. Okay, they're not the same thing. Okay, I think we would like them to be, but they're certainly not just now. Okay, okay. Not being able to observe a class, maybe with that one. Okay, I only do privates, one-to-ones, and I would not have somebody observing my class, observing my one-to-ones. It's private between me and the client. The client's paying a substantial chunk of money. If I was running classes and there was 20 people there, so we've got 8 dogs and their families coming in or whatever, and a couple of people want to come in to look for the first hour to see how we train stuff, then absolutely, there's no reason not to do that. But observing one-to-ones is, I wouldn't. Okay, it's not one for me. Okay, using the word fix will fix your dog. Yep, maybe. Okay. However, well, firstly, our dogs aren't broken, so they don't need fixed. Okay, that's the first thing. However, there's the problem that we've got is our marketing message, which is in order to get business and get people in the door. We can't help people if we can't tell them that we'll solve their problems with their dog. Okay, so some companies or trainers might use the word fix. We can fix your dog's problems, or fix your dog. So I wouldn't necessarily say that about one of these things. It's maybe an amber flag and needs further, or it's a red flag but needs further investigation. All right. Okay, do another couple. Wouldn't allow my dog to be trained without me being present. We've covered that, so we can board and train. If my dog showed any unexpected reactions, nerves concerned at either preliminary meeting or the first training session. I don't know so much about that one. So the person said they believe in listen to your dog. He's trying to tell you something. Yeah, that's true. But what if your dog is scared of people? And so I work with a lot of fearful dogs. We bring a dog out of the car and I just ignore them, but the dog's still showing fearful behaviour. The dog's showing fearful behaviour because I'm a new person. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but I'm certainly not small. So I weigh like 90 kilos, which is nearly 190 pounds or something like that, 14 stone. And you can hear my voice. It's not the deepest in the world, but it's not a nice squeaky voice like Mickey Mouse. Okay, I don't present as a soft person. Okay, and I've got a beard. All right, so and wear dark clothing. So the dog might be telling me I'm not comfortable with you, and I do listen to that. But I suppose the person's qualified by saying unexpected reactions or nerves or concern. I'm not fully sold on that one. Okay. Okay, let's do one more. Okay, this one, we'll go with this one. So the person's said, this might be a controversial one, but those who say your dog is a reflection of you, as if you're the reason why your dog might be fearful or reactive, without looking into the behavioural history or background of the dog. Some pet guardians have dogs who they've adopted from shelters and rescues that already have reactivity or fearfulness, and that's why they're seeking professional help to help their dog cope and bring them out the best they can, not to be wrongfully blamed by default. I think that's a lovely observation there. Yep. Lots of things are reflections on us. Our interactions with other people are reflections of us. So if you have, even a person can be so obnoxious, the most obnoxious person in the world. If you're not listened to the previous podcast that I did a few weeks ago, I think it's episode 30, on how do we apply Stoic principles of Stoicism to working with our dog. We've got a choice there on how we interact with that person. So everything that we do is a reflection of us. However, the person's reaction, our reaction is a reflection on us, but the person, they're bringing all that badness into that interaction with us. Okay, how we deal with it is a reflection on you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, how you deal with your part of it. But I would say that that's accurate. Yeah, so you could have a dog who's fearful of fireworks. Okay, and it's because the fireworks have gone off and the dog has become sensitized to the sounds of fireworks. It's got nothing to do with you. It's just to do with where you live. Yeah, so, and you trying to do lots of things to help your dog get through that is about helping your dog get through that. And the fact that you can't doesn't mean that's not a reflection on you as a person. It's just saying, yeah, I need some help with this. Okay, so I would say that's that's a nice observation. Okay, I think that's us. I think that'll do us. Yeah, I think I'm just looking through the replies here, and most of it is. I'll do one more. Okay, the way they communicate and the language that they use. Maybe some of us aren't the best communicators. It takes teaching is a skill which you get better at if you learn how to do it. Communication is a skill. Passing ideas across towards another person in a way that they'll understand is a skill. The language that they use, and again, I'm super careful about language. Certainly, if they're effing and jeffing, then I would suggest that they're not very professional. Occasional swear words can slip out because most people, or a lot of people, use colourful language, but we certainly shouldn't be effing and blinding. But the language, in order to communicate, are we blaming the dog? Are we blaming the person? So that's the language that we're using. So yeah, I would say that there's some validity in that. So hopefully this has been useful and you've enjoyed it, or at least informative in some way. Reach out to me any way you want. You can get me on Facebook or Instagram at Glasgow Dog Trainer. We've got our YouTube channel as well, which is also at Glasgow Dog Trainer. You can email me with feedback from the podcast, info@glasgowdogtrainer.co.uk, and I do my best to answer every message and email about the podcast, so thank you. And if you're wanting to support us to grow the channel, let other people know about it, and consider buying one of the courses that I've linked in the show notes with a discount code. Alright, until next time, much love to you folks.